So you want to be a registered dietitian? You are in the right place. My name is Jenny Westerkamp, founder of All Access Dietetics, and your host for Dear Future Dietitian, a podcast dedicated to helping you feel more confident in every step of your journey towards that RD credential. Thank you for being here and taking the time to listen to this episode and investing in yourself and your future career. I can already tell you're going to be a rockstar dietitian. Now let's get into it. Welcome to this episode. It's Jenny here, and today I have Rachel Jensen, who is our new operations manager for All Access Dietetics, and she is an RD2BE. Rachel, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And why don't you give the audience a quick introduction on yourself?
Sure. I am currently in my dietetic internship. I'm doing a distance program. I'm living in San Diego, California, so it's been a fairly sunny winter time this year.
Amazing.
I did my DPD program through San Diego State University and then completed my master's at Point Loma Nazarene University in integrative wellness. And now I'm kind of switching gears and doing more communications and marketing, which is, I think, where I want to stick for now.
Amazing. Yeah. We met, obviously through the interview process. We put out a job posting for a virtual assistant, although operations manager maybe would have been a better way to describe it. But essentially, had, close to 200 people apply, and Rachel just had amazing virtual assistant experience already with some big dietitian focused companies and dietitian entrepreneurs. So we knew she would be a great fit for the team. So we're excited to have you. I did prepare a few questions for you, Rachel. So the point of this is really to help our audience get to know a fellow RD2BE and just get to know you on the team in case they see you on our social media or reels or whatever it is. So I'd love to hear first, why did you become a dietitian? Like, what inspired you to go this route?
Yeah, I feel like I kind of have a common story for a lot of RD2Bs where they either have an illness or a condition or something that got them interested into nutrition. So for me, in high school, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is fairly common in teens who are very type A, kind of structured, or like the overachiever type of personality. So they found out right away that that's what I had. I was just having like really bad migraines. So I kind of was forced to take a more serious look at my health and well-being at an early age and kind of self-regulating and managing my stress more effectively. So I originally had a pretty big interest in plant-based nutrition, and I was a vegetarian up until last year or 2 years ago. And I feel pretty lucky that I was able to kind of know what I wanted to major in when I started college, because I feel like that's not the case for many people, especially being so young and kind of being forced to choose who you want to be or what you want to be. So I feel very lucky that I didn't have to do a career change or switch majors.
Mm-hmm. Right. I switched majors later on in my life. And I know it's such a weird thing to think, okay, you're 17, 18, 19, whatever age typically, and here, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And of course, you can change careers at any point in your life, but that seems like the big decision, and it's so hard to do that. But yeah, it sounds like you had some personal experience there. And yes, I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to the personal experience they had that sort of got them into the field of dietetics. And I actually hear that a lot from career changers as well, who, even have an experience later on in their life and make the switch because they're so passionate about it because of that. That's awesome. And so you kind of mentioned this in your introduction, but what are your interests in nutrition and dietetics at this point?
Yeah, I feel like I've changed a lot from starting college to now. I'm definitely more interested in marketing and media and sort of the business side of dietetics. So working in private practice or just helping other private practice dietitians with their business. And as much as I love helping people, I think my personality is made more for working behind the scenes and helping from that end versus doing counseling. I do have a really big passion though for helping those with disordered eating and healing relationships with food. So I think if I were to work in a counseling setting, that's kind of the route I would want to take. But there's so many opportunities. I feel like I'm interested in functional nutrition as well, which is something I kind of studied in my graduate program. So I'm kind of open to pursuing other things in the future too.
Very common to have many interests at this point, being a future dietitian. I remember I was interested in at least 5 different areas myself when I was going through it. And it's super common, but also exciting because, to have all these different avenues, and you can even touch on all of them in your career if you really wanted to. Like, hey, do a few years being a virtual assistant, do a few years in private practice. It's all, when you zoom out on the whole career, like let's say 30 years, who knows, what everyone's different career paths and lives will take them. It's interesting to know that it doesn't have to be just one thing your whole career, which is exciting. It's awesome. So then you are in your dietetic internship. What has that been like in its distance? So why don't you tell people more about that experience?
Yes. So it's distance, and I'm also doing like 90% of my rotations from home. So I think that's something that I know with Ascend is changing. I think their guidelines to not necessarily allow for that anymore, but because of COVID and kind of the cutoff of where I was at, I was able to do that. So I think being able to work from home and kind of set my own schedule has been really nice, because I'm also kind of able to tailor my internship to my passions. So having a distance program, you can kind of choose your preceptors versus kind of jumping into a program where they're already set for you. So I've really liked that. And I'm also interning part-time. So I'm with my preceptors for longer than the typical internship, which is kind of nice because I form more relationships with them and I kind of get to know them better and see more of what they're doing. Even though it's for less time during the week, it's still like a longer period overall, which is really nice to kind of form those relationships with them.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great way to put it, because when I used to take interns when I was a preceptor in a few jobs, like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, I remember wishing they were there longer so that they could see these ideas play out, that they may be a part of and be more a part of the process, especially because it was like a marketing kind of rotation that I was doing for this food company that I was working for. The projects were very much like, well, we need to then launch it, and then it runs for a week, and then you have the clients for this campaign, whatever it was, and our customers. But yeah, that's a really good point. And then just kind of helps with life balance and taking care of yourself and like less stress. I will also point out part-time options for people financially who want to, it totally depends on the program, but if they can then do part-time, yes, it might take close to twice as long to complete all of your rotation hours, but you will have the bandwidth, hopefully, to take on a part-time job and make money, or keep your part-time job or whatever it is. And that's another option. So people don't even realize that it's an option in general, that you can do that. But you should ask your program. And this goes for programs besides Rachel's, even if it maybe is full-time or if it does have these set rotations. Those are really good questions to ask, like if they're actually flexible, asking that to the directors, because sometimes they are, and they can be with how Ascend is set up and everything. So yeah, really, really cool. So what has been your favorite part of the rotation, or of like all your rotations?
Yeah, I did 4 months with a private practice called Find Food Freedom, and I did 2 rotations with them. I actually did my community and my concentration, which was marketing. And it was really cool because I got to see like their marketing campaigns play out and also kind of the effect that it had on their community. So that's kind of how we tied the 2 rotations together. But I think it really gave me the tools I needed as well to pursue more virtual assistant work. And so I think it kind of set a good foundation for me, like moving forward, to know how to help businesses with their marketing and help RDs with cultivating a community with their audience. And or with their clients instead of just kind of giving information, having more of like the community back and forth relationship with them.
Mm-hmm. The relationship is huge now just because there's so many people pining for attention on social media and all that. And being able to put the human relationship back into the social media marketing was where you can stand out for sure. We're working on that at All Access Dietetics too, and like trying to continue to add that community and connection. But yeah, the being able to really take advantage or leverage a rotation into skill development or job training is huge. You kind of like go into it sometimes, like interns will go into it just thinking, okay, this is just requirements. I have to get these hours done, check the box and go. But they don't realize that all these opportunities that can really set them up to hit the ground running once they become dietitians, or even in their first few years as a dietitian. Like, even if it's maybe not the first job, I know, like this has just happened before where even interns that we've had at All Access Dietetics, they come back to work for us later on, or they become a coach or a tutor, whatever it is. And it was all because they sort of leveraged their experience with us as an intern and then went from there. And that's what you can definitely do in any area, not just the marketing or virtual assistant, but even think about if you wanted a clinical rotation, how you could do the same thing where you're going into it thinking like, okay, this is really a job interview and really a way for me to get trained. And I have a leg up on the competition because I have been able to be an intern in this. And that always really helps. So really good. So what do you think distance interns need to know both about maybe the application process and just in general?
Ooh, I would say start early. I waited between graduating from my DPD program to applying about 2 years in between, but I was still preparing for my internship between that time. So I knew I didn't have like a 4.0 GPA and I didn't have a low GPA on the scale, but I knew that in order to stand out, I kind of needed to have a lot of experience just to make sure that I got into the program that I wanted. So I definitely tried a lot of different jobs in the meantime, and kind of used those experiences to figure out what I wanted to do in nutrition. So I think that helped me kind of narrow down, first of all, which internship I needed to go into, but also if I was going to do distance, which preceptors I wanted. So even though you're not actively like applying, any experience that you have from starting college to graduating is still helping you prepare, even if you don't know it.
Mm-hmm. There's so much value. There's so much value in a job in general. Like no matter what, I don't know. And that might be something my parents like instilled in me. I feel like get jobs, get real world experience, because even if it's not even in the area you end up, you learn so much. You learn how to interact with people, different types of people. It's like, you don't even realize how many skills you're gaining. And then what you're doing was genius around being able to research and be really intentional with your career and professional development. Like that all starts the moment you pick this path, and you don't have to wait to become a dietitian to be thinking about these things and being intentional with your time and your goals.
Yeah. And I definitely don't even think I realized that that's what I was doing until I started to look back on it. Because I think a lot of it for me was motivated financially. Like you were saying, like I knew I had student loans and I didn't want to add to student loans with the internship. And I was already used to working through college part-time. So I knew I just wanted to keep doing that because I was used to it. And so I think that's what kind of pointed me in the direction of the internship that I chose, which is Wellness Workdays, because I was able to do it part-time and still stay in San Diego where like my life is based. And I got married right before I started my internship. So there's just a lot going on.
Yeah. Life happens too. It's not just about, becoming a dietitian. There's there's so much more to life. So I love that.
Definitely.
That's great. Yeah. And in terms of applying, so you said start early. Do you have any tips for, it sounded like you were gaining a lot of experience and you put a lot of time into it, but anything else that you feel like would be helpful for people to know, especially if they want to go to Wellness Workdays? I know that's a really popular program.
Yes. As far as like my personal statement and my resume, I used all access. I used all the free resources that I could
Yes.
find to kind of go over my personal statement and my resume as well, just to make sure I was hitting all the important points that programs look for. And then I also had one of my friends who was already in her internship read over my statements just to make sure that I wasn't missing a period or whatever. Just anything small that I was too stressed out to see. That was something that I really appreciated, was just having anyone, and it doesn't have to be an RD2BE. It can be just a friend, a parent, your roommate, whoever is around you that has a second eye on your work can really help and make a difference. And I think also being a distance program, finding preceptors was a challenge for sure. And I had to accept a lot of rejection and realize that rejection is normal. It's nothing personal. Still, even now with like the after effects of COVID, a lot of hospitals and other sites aren't taking interns. So it's nothing that you're doing wrong or that's wrong with your approach necessarily, but it's just the lack of resources right now for a lot of dietitians that is kind of affecting internships. So I think just having that perseverance to keep reaching out to people and using any connections you have, whether it was classmates, bosses, professors, who can help connect you to other dietitians.
Really feels like a scavenger hunt sometimes. Like you keep getting clues every no, even if they say no, they might have an idea for you of who to reach out to. And then you go reach out to them and they're like, no, but I have this person, and it might go something like that. But yeah, I wanted to say the preceptor tip is amazing around accepting rejection, not taking it personally. And then we'll put the free application toolkit that she mentioned in the show notes, because that does have free resources on all the areas of the application. It's been downloaded, 7,000 times at this point, no joke, over the last few years. So lots of applicants use that, and it really does help because you've never done anything like this before with your application. You don't know what directors are looking for. Career centers can kind of be misguiding sometimes because they don't understand our fields and kind of the intricacies of that and the nuance of it all. So definitely get the application toolkit. And then the other thing, yes, there is something to be said about when you're stressed, your mind actually does not work as well. And so I know reading your personal statement that you have been looking on, especially on a computer screen for many, many hours. I mean, I remember when I was writing mine, like I practically memorized it word for word because I was just rereading it over and over again. But both getting other people to look at it and also even simply printing it out and reading it on paper can be a really easy way to find those like typos, and then reading it out loud, of course, too, can be a way to just slow down your mind and find those typos. But it is important because you don't want to have a grammar error filled statement or resume. So, and it can be really easy to do that. So then I guess the wrap up question here, if you could write a note to your fellow RD2Bs that are listening here, and it starts with Dear Future Dietitian in honor of the podcast name, what would you say?
I would say to try everything. I think you'll never know what you'll like or dislike unless you've tried it and immersed yourself into that field or area of nutrition or whatever career you're pursuing. I guess in this case, nutrition. But I've probably tried everything, like food service, clinical, eating disorders, bariatrics, marketing. I think that is the biggest eye opener that you can have, because when you're in the classroom, you're not actually seeing the day-to-day life of a dietitian. And whether you're working as an aide or a receptionist or anything in these settings, when you see the day-to-day life of the dietitian, it'll really tell you what kind of career they have and what their day is like, and whether that's something that you can see yourself doing or not.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I like to say that it should really be like a buffet when you're just getting started as a student and even into your career. And logistically, I think some people get really overwhelmed by that. Like, I only have time for one extra thing, or, they might have family obligations or whatever it is. Sometimes there's a strategy to actually switch jobs more quickly as a student. I tell this to people, like, I've met so many different people with so many different backgrounds. And I remember telling this one student, she had been a diet tech for like 3 years. And I actually advised her to, well, if she could, or if, it's all like personal decisions here, but if it was an option, she should leave that and go try other things, because you kind of like, especially when you're just in the exploratory phase and you're like not sure what you want to do. If she knew for sure, like, I loved being a diet tech, I know I want to work in clinical, so this is like my path, that's different, then there's like something more there. But if you're really wanting to explore the full potential of like all these different areas, then it would be, hey, why don't you do something for 3 months or 6 months and then move on to something else, or try to do like smaller things that are less hours, but in different areas. Like, I agree. Like, that's exactly how I approached it too. And I even did that throughout the first like 5 or 6 years of my career, where I was like picking up side gigs or projects, or I'm going to do a speaking gig, see how I like speaking. I'm going to write over here and like see how I like writing, and just went through lots of different things to figure out what that was for me. And I'm still doing that like now, like still thinking, what else do I want to do or try? So it is important to be open to that and just be strategic with your time, and know that you could just stop a job and try something new. So it doesn't feel like you're just adding more and more to your plate with that. But yeah, that's great advice, Rachel. I like it. It sounds like you really, I just love like the intentionality of, even though it wasn't totally planned, you're kind of like making the most of your situation and what your like unique path, unique timeline, unique structure to your, path that I feel like needs to be heard by people, to like give them permission to know there's not this one timeline. There's not one path. There's not like you have to do these steps or these types of programs in this order. So I'm really glad you're able to share your story today and give people that, like, an approach that it's becoming way more common now, but more people just need to continue to hear that there's different ways, different paths to the RD. So
Definitely.
Yes. Well, thank you. And then Rachel will be, working behind the scenes at All Access Dietetics, and we are so happy to have her part of the team. That will be our 5th teammates in the operations world, and then we have 8 coaches, Get Match coaches, and 4 RD exam tutors right now. So the team continues to grow at All Access. We have a lot of fun things that she'll be a part of. Rachel will be a part of coming up this year. So just wanted to have you guys meet her, hear her story. And if you want to say hi to her via DMs or through the email, you can do that on our website. Or if you want to connect with her and network with your fellow RD2BE, maybe if you have similar interests or anything, you can do that and we'll connect you with her. So thanks, Rachel, for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Dear Future Dietitian. I hope you got a lot out of it, and I also hope that you take action based on what you learned today. Now, if you have any questions at all, please reach out to us through our website, allaccessdietetics.com, or DM us on Instagram or TikTok. We are here to help you become a more confident registered dietitian to be and make this journey way less stressful for you. So reach out, don't be a stranger, and we hope to hear from you soon. Have a great day.